Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard CXM Event Roundtable on FMCG, FMCE, and Auto. Today, we will be discussing delivering personalized, collaborative digital world-class customer experience now and beyond. My name is Justin Koshi, and I'm your host for today's roundtable. Now, first and foremost, I hope all of you are staying healthy and safe in this difficult and challenging time. On behalf of the entire CXM team and our partners, SAP, Blueprint Technologies, and Capgemini, I would like to thank you all for taking time out from your busy schedule and joining us today. So please stay tuned. We will be starting the session in a few minutes from now. So let me give a quick outline on today's proceedings. Today's event is for a duration of 2 hours, which includes 2 panel discussions of 40 minutes each and 2 keynote presentations of 20 minutes each. Let me quickly introduce our eminent speaker lineup for today. First up, we have Mr. Vaidishwaran as the Enterprise Application Director of Blueprint Technologies, the SAP partner. Mr. Vaidishwaran currently heads pre-sales and capability development for Blueprint Technologies. He has over 2 decades of experience working in intersections of technology and business functions. He comes with a deep domain knowledge and experience in sales, field service, and supply chain areas in CPG and automotive industries. He's worked with TVS Motors, Pepsi in the functional and IT domains. He has worked with global customers and customer base and specializes in SAP solutions. Next up, we have Mr. Vikas Kumar. He's a VP and Head of Operations Transformation of Capgemini Invent. Mr. Kumar holds a balanced and mixed professional experience in industry and management consulting. His current focus is digital transformation. Mr. Kumar comes with a huge 24 years of experience in consulting, including 14 years of leadership experience, managing and delivering expert consulting teams to deliver across industries. Next up, we have Mr. Syed Hussain Imam. He's the head brand and experience of Capgemini Invent. Mr. Imam is a marketing and technology professional with over 19 years of experience. Mr. Imam has distributed his time acquiring a remarkable proficiency in the field of integrated digital marketing, product management, and digital sales solutions. He has led teams that deliver technology-enabled sales and marketing initiatives, collaborating effectively with stakeholders, vendors, and clients in the globally distributed delivery model. He has experience working with global FMCG players as well. Right, so next up we have Mr. Saurabh Bajaj, who is the marketing head of Diary of Britannia India Limited. Mr. Bajaj currently heads the marketing, holds expertise in business development, sales, marketing, and innovation. With over 16 years of experience in top companies like Britannia Industries, USL, Cadbury, and Wipro Care Limited. He's a pioneer in inventing innovative strategies by understanding the consumer point of view. Great. Next up, we have Mr. Saikat Sarkar, who's the CEO of SR Retail Food Business. Mr. Sarkar is a food and beverage specialist, having 23 years of functional experience as a hotelier, entrepreneur, a retailer, and experience in handling multiple FMCG brands. He's functioning as a CEO of Fresh Greens Private Limited, SR Group, and engaged in developing a new age food company, having interest in niche food categories, natural, sustainable, fresh produce, semi-processed staple items, and food services. Next up, we have Mr. Saumil Mehta, the country manager, India and Southeast Asia for Kraft Heinz Company. Mr. Mehta holds more than 15 years of experience in managing business from junior managerial levels to general management levels. His journey included working with the most iconic and global Indian brands, organizations like PepsiCo, Samsung, Pidilite, Thomson Reeves, which led him to his current assignment at the Kraft Heinz Company. Being in leadership assignment for more than a decade, he has been able to acquire reasonable people management skills. Running into the last two, Mr. Ayyappan Konar, the head of customer service for Hindustan Food Limited. Mr. Konar is a contract manufacturing and supply chain leader in the FMCG industry. He has over 15 years of experience in FMCG SCM strategies that impact the O2C model, vendor management, demand planning, and forecasting. Currently in Hindustan Food Limited, he's positioned as the head customer service of India, leading and driving the ecosystem of major brands like Amazon, Godrej, Marico, Heinz, and HUL to be the future ready with his assortment planning and customer experience. And in last, we have Mr. Sumit Singh, the head customer experience and design CXT for Havells India Limited. Mr. Singh is currently head customer experience and design Havells and has over 19 years of experience in creating award-winning design experience and fostering innovative and creative teams. In his current role, he has set up the consumer experience plus design functions for the company by building capabilities for all design aspects, including UX, design thinking, and cognitive science. Right. Welcome, eminent panel. Thank you so much for joining us today. And the end, last would be myself, your host for today. Now, a few ground rules for the attendees. If I could request all of you to keep your phone lines on mute. This is to avoid any discontinuity or interference. And please feel free to chat with us using the chat tool if you have any questions or need any assistance during the keynote presentation or panel discussions. Now, without further delays, let me quickly start the event. First up, we have a panel discussion on how can your business remove friction and offer digital engagement that boosts sales, promote brand advocacy, and lay a foundation for the new normal post-COVID. This panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Vaidishwaran S., the Enterprise Application Director, Blueprint Technologies. Alongside Mr. Vaidishwaran, we also have Mr. Saurabh Bajaj, Marketing Head of Britannia India, Mr. Saumal Mehta, the Country Manager of the Kraft Heinz Company, and Mr. Ayyappan Konar, the Head of Customer Service, Hindustan Food Limited. Now, if I could request all these speakers, Mr. Vaidishwaran, Mr. Saurabh Bajaj, Mr. Saumal Mehta, and Mr. Ayyappan Konar, to join me at the backstage. We will start the session in about a few seconds. Attendees, please stay tuned. We will be starting the session shortly. Over to you, Mr. Vaidishwaran. You can go ahead and start the session. So please make sure that your video and also your audio is unmuted. Over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Justin, for the introduction. So we will start the panel discussion on the topic on how business can remove friction and offer digital engagements that can boost sales, improve brand advocacy, and how it can be the foundation for the new normal. So that is a topic for the discussion today. So I start with Mr. Saurabh. The first question is, now in the current situation, customers are owning their experiences. It's no longer with the company. So customers are owning their own experience. Do you agree with this statement? And how do you see the future consumer experience evolving?
Yeah, hi, Mr. Vedasharan. So nice to hear from all of you, and looking forward to this energetic discussion, right? So, as we avail of any new product, right? Because the behavior of shopping has become that of holding and stocking. So if somebody goes into a shop, he will buy 2 or 3 weeks of stock, right? And that's not the kind of inventory that a retailer holds, right? A retailer will only hold so much inventory, and hence the consumer has got no choice but to be brand agnostic. So I might be a normal consumer. I go in there, I see only Britannia, I buy 4 bricks of it, right? Because I don't know what I'm going to get next, right? And hence, this is a time for a drop in brand loyalty. This is not a time in which brand preference is going to be the big driver. This is a time in which the consumer is becoming supply sensitive rather than brand sensitive, right? And hence you will have Amul consumers trying Britannia, a Good Day consumer trying Parley, and so on and so forth, right? Now, what is in for the brands? The brands have to do two things. One, how do they ensure that the consumer gets the experience he deserves? Second, how do you convert these fresh trials with new users into a kind of loyalty or a kind of a reason for it? And that is again where digital engagement comes in, because you know you're going to get a very different spectrum of people buying and consuming your products. Now, whether you keep them in your fold or you let them go is what is up to you.
Okay. Saurabh, you also touched upon basically the supply. Because of the supply, the customer preferences are changing. The way they engage with the brand is changing. So how do you expect this trend to evolve? Do you think this is a trend that will continue in the future, or how do you expect this trend to evolve in the future?
So it's a very good question. Now, again, there are two parts to this piece, right? One part is how do brands, manufacturers, right, use this time to create new systems and processes which makes the life of the consumer easy going on, right? Now, I think when I was in Diageo, we could have only dreamt about home delivery of alcohol, right? And it took the lockdown for them to open it up, right? Now, a home delivery of alcohol, when I was in the alcobev sector, we always found it logical because, you are not going to have an asocial element who's going to get home delivery. Home delivery is going to be bought in by the most elite of the classes for socializing needs. So that needs is a behavior that can be encouraged, right? But it is the lockdown which has allowed the regulators or companies to make life easier for brands to create new consumer journeys, right? So that's one thing that brands and manufacturers need to hold on to, create the infrastructure, because that's not going away. Yeah. And the second thing which brands and manufacturers need to do is to understand what are the new learned behaviors that are coming in. So there is a new learned behavior of trying to make food at home as good as restaurant food. And hence things like dips and cheese and cornflakes is currently rising. Yeah, because the need for the consumer still wants to live the same life. He has to just live it in different ways. And once he learns to cook in a particular manner, have a hygiene in a particular manner, do shopping in a particular manner, it's not something he's going to unlearn. And it is the guy who is going to be most agile, who's going to adapt to this trend, who's going to create the infrastructure for the future to hold on to this trend, who will eventually be the one who will gain the most.
Okay, thanks, Saurabh. So I will move on to Saumil for a question on the sales side. Currently, customers are engaging in the sales channels very differently to the previous situation, right? Customers are wants everything quickly. They want an intelligent way to interact with companies. So how do you see the trend happening? And do you also see the leverage for digital capabilities in these interactions?
Saumil,
Sorry for that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me over here. Specific to the question, sir, I would say we're trying to guide customers towards convenience, availability, and shopping. It's more of a very, I would say, in terms of, that's what we are largely guiding actually. Saurabh just mentioned that, for consumers right now, it's the availability which is the key more than anything else. And obviously availability in a convenient manner. So I can't confirm whether we are quick or are we intelligent in guiding customers. I think that's for the customers and the consumers to decide upon, because there is one huge reason for this, that the post-COVID times, within the post-COVID times that we have been of last 4, 5, 6 months, there has been a lot of subsections to it also. Like we started with some initial cases getting reported where public was cautious and the demand for sanitizer went up. Then we had a complete lockdown. The lockdown had its varying impacts on various cross sections of the society, and now we are into various levels of unlock. So even post-COVID times has its own bifurcations of various times, and each of these stages have seen various forms of consumer needs. And as brand owners, we have moved from one need statement to another in probably the shortest span of our lives. However, there are some common themes also that are clearly emerging as we understand, or rather, I would say, try to understand the customer quickly or not. But yeah, these are some of the common themes. One, consumers are looking for branded products more than ever. They might substitute quickly or easily, but they're still looking for branded products purely because a lead brand or a global brand is something which assures them of some quality, especially in the food and beverage domain, which is the most essential need right now, to fill your tummy. So, and largely established brands or global brands are benefiting out of this. Number two, the quantum of eating has also gone up, specific from a food and beverage point of view. It's just gone up. So whatever losses brands would have from out of home consumption, it gets compensated through in-home consumption as well. However, there's one catch, or one, I would not say one catch, but one caveat to that is brands need to adopt to in-home packaging requirement as well, because the format of packaging you sell out of home is totally different than the format of packaging you sell in home for a lot of product categories. Third theme that is emerging very clearly from a food and beverage point of view is consumers are proactively seeking help on digital platform. And this is going beyond category. So it's not that consumers are, earlier they would have a specific search or a category led search. Now it's a larger search that they are having, a larger engagement they are having. Now they are also being slightly more proactive as well, because of a bit of time available to them owing to work from home situations. So the consumers are not seeking products anymore, they are seeking more and more solutions these days. I'll give you a simple example. Can be that you will see consumers or people searching online how to cook cheeseburger pizza at home, because they can. Saurabh just mentioned that something they cannot eat outside. Now they want to have it inside. So looking at that, and now within this particular search, just imagine how many multiple brands can create an impact around this single location. Lots of brands can have their own benefit out of this particular search. So the answer lies in going back to basic, remap the day, and the back to basic, which says for any brand marketer, is remap the day in life of your consumer in a post-COVID work from home heavy lifestyle, because the consumer has additional hours. And there are three implications on these timelines, the additional time the consumer has. One, how does brand ensure that they get maximum of this free time that the consumer has for themselves? How much of the time the brand can attract? Second is the consumption timeline might have shifted owing to the flexible nature of work from home scenario. For example, in a office environment, I might take my shower at 7 in the morning, but now I might say take it at like 11. So this is one small, simple example, but as there is a shift in consumption timeline, is the brand still relevant in this shifted consumption timeline? And which part, and the third important point is that which part of the brand's portfolio has a shift in salience in rest of urban and rural markets? Because mind you, even those markets are impacted by COVID. Lastly, on the digital capabilities, yes, there needs to be leverage around answering to some of the very pertinent questions with regards to A, how does the brand can uplift the mood of the consumer in the additional free time that they have? How is the brand still relevant despite the usage timeline, as I mentioned, being flexible? And third, which problems for rest of urban and rural consumers are being solved by the brands? I think these are three very critical questions that brands can answer using the digital capability.
Okay, thanks, Saumil. So you also touched upon an important point where the companies are moving from a product company into a more a service company. So this is a big shift for all companies. How the companies are managing this shift? How are they coping with this change?
To be honest, it is too short term to say that a brand would move into that space. However, the way some of the activations that I have seen from peer group companies, from peer category companies, or even say within our own internal setup is that we have been, as I said earlier, we have been guiding now consumers towards convenience of shopping. And this is not only limited to say our company, it is limited, it is actually we have seen an ITC or a Marico also getting into a tie-up with online delivery systems directly to supply products to their consumers. So this is one huge shift that we are seeing right now. Right now, the focus of most organizations right now, typically about for a food and beverage or even in general FMCG, FMCE companies, is to have a seamless supply chain in an altered servicing scenario. The altered servicing scenario is no more, as Saurabh also said, consumer is not going out daily or say once a week. Now he is going and trying to maximize their out of home time to shop as much as he or she can in one go, provided they need to go out or they are ordering things online, and they are reducing their frequency of interaction with the outer world because of this. So right now the larger focus for organization is to alter their entire supply chain and consumer touch points so that they can fit in or they can provide the consumer this particular experience which is they are expecting. The consumer are not expecting brand or product experience largely, they're expecting shopping experience. This is a different shopping experience than what the consumer was used to in the earlier world. Right now I think brands are including our organization, we are all trying to handle this particular consumer experience.
Okay, thanks so much. Saurabh, I just come back to you with the thought shared by Saumil also. So now, if you look at it, the customers or the consumers are looking at a very, very personalized experience. And already you have touched upon few of the facets of the organization which will significantly undergo a change. Right. So how do you expect the future functions to evolve? For example, is it going to be a significant transformation that happens in sales, marketing, or it is IT? How do you expect basically the transformation to happen in organizations?
So there are a couple of trends, and I think Saumil has shared a lot of very good points, and I felt it was quite a comprehensive piece that he shared. But and hence I will just probably want to add to it, right? And while I may not answer your question extremely directly, but I just want to call out 2 or 3 things really that would sort of intrigue me. Yeah. One thing which I find very intriguing is some of the fundamental changes in marketing from the point of view of media. Right now, we've all talked about digital as being very large, for sure. Yeah, and digital is large, right? But there is something else. There is something called society marketing, is what I've been seeing, where the consumer says, if I can't go to you, you come to me, right? And all of the things that a radio or a print or an outdoor used to do, right? Today, societies are becoming a new activation forum. So you have so I have a colleague who works with Have More Ice Cream, and he sent me a link, a Google link to say that, circulate in the society, whoever wants to order ice cream, I'll come on the weekend and give personalized delivery. Now that's not something that anyone could have ever expected in the past, right? So the consumer says, own the society halls, own the lifts, own the areas, touch me where, because I am not on the road anymore, right? I still want to have that intervention. So that's the first thing which happens. The consumer says, come into my society and do those field days. We have a Pantaloon putting up a pop-up shop in our club today, right? So the consumer says, if I can't go where you are, right, maybe you can come where I am, right? And hence, I think that is one of the things which is fundamentally changing the face of how brands are interacting with consumers. Retail is coming inside societies. Addas and WhatsApp groups are becoming forums to engage, right? There is a time for an aggregator to make societies into one catchment. I won't be surprised the way we have a TAM measure when somebody says touch 80% of reachable societies. So that's really one big thing which really excites me on one big change which is happening. Yeah. The other thing which sort of excites me is D2C, yeah, and everybody has talked about direct to consumer, yeah. But the fact is, a 5 rupee biscuit can't do D2C. Yeah, let's be clear, right? Because the size of the basket will never enable that, right? But then you need aggregators. So your Dunzo has stepped in. Your big baskets are growing at 500%, right? So obviously the D2C part is growing. Every brand has to do it differently. A PNG can probably set up a portal. I can't, right? A PNG can say, or Unilever can say that I have the length and breadth of the whole piece. So they can change that experience, right? The third thing which manufacturers can do is come up close and personal with the retailers. Now, for example, Britannia services 4 million retailers in the country. Yeah. Now, I can't go and reach out to those 4 million retailers every day, right? I can't give them a confidence that, in this COVID time, all my salesmen are going to be able to do a push sale. Yeah. But I have a lot of their phone numbers. I can do SMS blast saying that, my distributor in this locality near to you is accessible. Come and pick it up. right? So I think it's a time to break the boundaries and walls and say, yeah, hum ye nahi karte the. I think it's time to let go of that, saying that we don't used to do this. We are at Levi's, you only sit inside a mall. No, you are at Levi's, put up a pop-up shop, right? So I think it's a time to question all the basics, figure out how do you come up and close to the consumer, understand that the consumer, the customer, all of them need your help, right? Create those chains, create those relationships. And once I start talking to my 4 million retailers every day, why would I stop doing that? Even if the market opens up. So I think there's a time for a lot of new behaviors and new habits. And I think brands and manufacturers need to be agile and make the most of it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Saurav. So I will move into more on a service related aspect. So now if you look at it the way I think already Saumil and Saurabh touched upon basically on the customer expectation, where they are expecting everything to come to their society or to their house, right? That also significantly changes the way the customer services are being performed now. So for Ayyappan, a question for you on how do you see the tech-driven customer services are evolving, and what do you see as a trend on the customer service front?
Thanks for this, Sharon. Thanks for the question, and thanks for being part of this panelist. Okay, definitely, the point here is certainly the technology is driving majorly of customer service nowadays, because everybody, if you say today, technology is a strategic basically investment for any company now. It's no more a choice. It's an enabler for their businesses. So they are investing, like for example, in Amazon, for example, will take, like previously when Amazon came into India, it was just an e-commerce company, but now it's purely a tech-based company. It's providing everything, based on technology, services, everything. So technology has taken long away, like what Saurabh and Samir also, added into their talking, that technology has taken WhatsApp, communications and social media has taken long way. So stores are coming to their premises instead of the customers going to the stores. So this is how the changes has evolved over a period of time, and technology gives a lot of data to the companies to process, to understand what their customer needs at the exact point of time, and accordingly they give they ensure that there are no stockouts. And say, for example, in e-commerce platform, all the big companies like EHUL or PNG or Dabur, they are into e-commerce platform now, technology side, where they are trying to leverage the customer data, understanding the trends, and ensuring their stocks are available. And now basically customers are driven towards, not like a earlier stage it was like product quality and service, but now it's not just product quality, it is given product and quality should be there with the product. Along with that, the experience what customer gathers from your product is more important, and how he puts it into the social media. So people, whenever, if for example, if anybody buys a new product nowadays, previously people used to search for products like which are available in the market, okay, what is the cost and everything. Now people see what is the feedback, what is the customer experience people are talking about. So through the digital, they are able to go to social media, understand what is the feedback people are giving on certain products, categories, and accordingly they are able to take the decision. So decisions are more driven towards digitalization, and anywhere the customer would be able to reach your products anytime, any, because today the technology is so driven. In your mobile, you have all the apps available. So you're immediately at the any point of go, you can order, you can get the products available at your doorstep. So I think technology has taken a long way, along with the customer, and customer service has improved, which has helps the customer to have a better experience of their brand and the product.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ayyappan, for the comprehensive views on this. One follow-up question on the same topic. So how do you see now the organization are gearing up to manage this digital engagement? Now, if you look at consumers, now they want to have a direct engagement with the companies directly. So how well companies are prepared to manage this change?
Companies are basically gearing up now slowly, because many companies, if you say, the large companies are already into digital platform, so they are already taking the advantage, whereas the small mid-sized companies who are not more into technology are getting into that phase. They are getting into social media, they are communicating through WhatsApp. Many the retailers, they are driving through the retailers saying that through WhatsApp, door delivery, many things. So they are driving in such a way that customers should come, they should go to the customer in a way and service, because due to this entire scenario of COVID, now the demand has so much that in the market, that even the customers are not able to get their material, their brand, which they are loyal for. So now the companies are understanding this data, and they are trying to understand what exactly, I would say, the business demand, what was there, what they have lost. They are churning out into digitalization. They are seeing how they can leverage this into and ensure that the customer gets their product whenever they require it, so that they are not stock out. So they are, there are multiple channels they are now following up, like digital. They have their own platform of e-commerce. They have also, many companies have come up, so that you can order online. They are sending messages, they are sending emails to their regular customers who they have contacts. So this is how the things are moving now. So I think post COVID, the many companies would be into digitalization, and digitalization is growing as far as India is also concerned.
Okay, thanks, Ayappa.
Thanks, Sandesh.
Okay, Somel, this is a question for you. So now if you look at it, see, listening is becoming far more important, and the personal touch points are also going down, right? From a sales perspective and from a marketing perspective, it's very different, because the window was what customer is going to provide is becoming smaller, and customer wants the companies to understand the needs with this limited interaction. So how do you see this behavior evolving in the future, and how organizations are getting ready to manage this?
Okay, so as I said earlier, the consumer needs are evolving pretty fast, and part of it is also because the circumstances around us are also, evolving pretty fast. However, some of the sources of knowing the consumer need or capturing some of the critical feedback are, in my opinion, are as follows. There are four such, mechanism that I would say, largely we work on as an organization. One is obviously internal feedback mechanism that you would have already defined and established, like your website, your digital media handles, your consumer contact number, the call center number that you have, or your email ID, etc. So that's one, and that's something which we have to be really obsessed about in these times, because this is the first reaction of the consumer to reach out at these touch points. The second is an informal mechanism where you participate in industry forums like this, peer group discussions like this, or even reach out to, say, reach out to veterans in the industry myself and pick their brains in terms of how they are also understanding the consumer needs as well. Secondly, it's also about taking feedback about your own company from various people. For example, one of the questions that I would ask every marketing leader today is that are you the kind of leader where your friends and family share simple feedback with you regards to your products and services and their expectations, etc. Like I get messages from few of my peer groups that with regards to the products or services that we offer, and which is really helpful for me for the evolution of my organization. The third is your sales ecosystem, your retailers, your distributors, your frontliner sales team. Listen to them. Pretty critical. They are the ones right now. They are in all, with all due respect to every other Corona warrior, they are equally the Corona warriors right now, because they are the ones who are doing your last mile servicing, and they are also facing the irate of consumers at times. And then obviously, if you need, in terms of having a formal listening to the consumer, if these three are not sufficient, then obviously a formal research in case if it is required or mandated. I think these are the four broad sources of listening to your consumer. Having said that, there is no need to say panic or act on every feedback. The need of the hour is two: A, empathy, and B, responsiveness ahead of concrete action. Consumers might not, or it might not be required to give a concrete action there itself, but at least be responsive, at least acknowledge the feedback. When you respond to the feedback, at least the consumer would know that you're listening, and you will also, give them an assurance of acting on it as the case may be. And in case you're not able to act on a certain feedback, it might not be possible. I mean, some consumers write to us, we need product delivered at the peak of lockdown at so and so location. We have, with folded hands, we have apologized them that this is not going to happen. But at least by responding them with transparency, we showed our empathy to them. On evolving consumer needs, well, one needs to understand the pivot on which our product hinges in the life of the consumer. Some of the critical data points that we need to analyze would be one, as the consumption pattern, or as I said, the occasion or the timeline of occasion within a day of a consumer. Has it undergone a massive change owing to the revised lifestyle? For example, personal vehicles, the consumption pattern and occasion have completely undergone because of work from home situations. The second is, has consumption frequency or quantum undergone a massive change? Again, I'll recall what Saurabh said. Are we buying too little too frequently, or are we buying too bulk list with least amount of frequency? Third, has the consumer buying behavior seen any significant change? Like some of the categories might be completely a no-go for them, or some of the categories might be a completely go-to categories now for them. And last but not the least is, what is the salience of the brand, and this is specific to the brand in this phase of life for the consumer. Are we at the core? If yes, are we going to stay relevant and accessible? Are we at the periphery? If yes, then how do we get near to the core? Or are we out of the consideration set completely? In that situation, how do we create a new demand occasion to at least get back to the periphery? And last, unfortunate reality, but yes, again to be looked at, will we remain out of the consideration set for foreseeable futures? There are brands and categories which will not be consumed for some foreseeable future. And if that is yes, then don't lose hope, don't lose heart. Use this time very effectively to reset your offerings, add new product specs quickly, so that whenever bounce back happens, your scale up is quicker and easier. I think this is how I would say analyzing various consumer needs for various brands at various stages of the current situation is required.
Thank you, Saurabh. So Saurabh, this is a question to you. I think you also touched upon, I think Saumil also covered in detail. The engagement level that you have with your dealer, distributor, retailers are significantly higher than what you were having earlier. So yeah. How do you see this as a trend? Because you hear to more your channel now than your communication with them earlier. How do you see this evolving?
I think it's a very good question, Vedishwaran, and I would say both Ayappan and Saumil have really added a lot of value to the overall conversation. So, thank you everybody here. I really enjoyed this. Now, coming to the question in specific, say, as industry leaders or as multinationals or as companies, right, we must understand that there is a lot of resources at our disposal, right, which we must use progressively. Right, and we must use it progressively, and it's an opportunity for people to step up and almost take a mentorship or a coach or a guide role. Right now, all of the problems that we are all facing, we are facing with an enormous amount of resources at our disposal. Right, but the retailer or the distributor, or in many cases the consumer does not have all those resources. He does not have the access to information. He does not access all the webinars, peer forums that we do. Right, so there is a lot of responsibility which is there on our shoulders to disseminate some of this. Right, so are we sort of stepping up, coaching our factories, coaching our partners, talking to our distributors, saying that these are the safety precautions, these are the standards that have been put by the government, this is how you can comply, this is not very expensive, this is not very difficult, it is actually making a safe workspace for everybody, right? And if you pitch in and you create a collaborative atmosphere, you finally win the most. It's a win-win for everybody. You reduce everybody's cost of transaction, you create bonds which will last better, you have a atmosphere of trust rather than hostility. Right, and I think it is that leadership role that is there for all of us as leaders and for multinational companies to embrace, and not crib about the fact that there are 2 new sanitizers to be put, or 3 new masks to be given, or 4 stickers to be placed on your halls. Right, it's about understanding that India has not been the most sanitized nation ever. I think the amount of food grains that as a nation we waste or we burn, right? Even if that was brought in, all of us as MNCs will be far more profitable, right? So it's about understanding that the change that we are driving in the long run will make the country and all of our organizations a lot more competitive with regards to global standards. So I think we should all use this as a huge opportunity to really up our infrastructure, understand that the country is going to get into a much better place, and really lead the charge in doing all of it.
Okay, thanks, Saurabh. I think we are very close to our time. I think it was a very, very insightful discussion with all of you, with Saumil, Saurabh, and Ayapan sharing your thoughts. So thanks a lot for your time, taking your time off your busy schedule to be part of this panel. So back to you, Justin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vaideswaran and our respected panelists. It was a wonderful and insightful session. Now it's time for the QA attendees. It's time for the QA session to begin, you could click on the raise hand option or post your questions in the chat panel so the speakers could look into it and answer those for you. Right, so I don't see any questions coming through, and I believe we could move into the next agenda, which is a keynote by Mr. Vaideswaran on enterprise, on the growing opportunities for consumer organization to transform and meet the challenges of ever-changing landscape of customer expertise and expectations in the COVID and post-COVID world with SAP Customer Experience Solutions. Now, I would request all these speakers to go back into the launch and Mr. Vaideswaran to come back to the green room so we could start the keynote. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.